Annyeong, I'm Chef Atulya. Today I'm gonna show you how to make the best vegan jampong, which is Korean Chinese spicy noodle soup. So let's get started. First thing we have to do is prepare the kombu dashi by taking two 4x4-inch pieces of kombu, or I'm just gonna use one large piece. Gently wipe it down, but don't wipe it too much. You're gonna take off all the umami flavor and soak it in 8 cups of water. Set it aside while we prepare the rest of the ingredients. You can even soak this overnight for a deeper umami flavor. But let's be honest, most of the times I forget to soak my kelp overnight, so I'm gonna show you a method on how to extract the umami flavor without having to soak it for long periods of time. Next, we're gonna prep all the vegetables and tofu. Mince 2 teaspoons worth of fresh ginger. Just make sure you mince it up very finely because nobody wants to chew on a big chunk of ginger. I'm gonna set my ginger aside onto a plate where I'm gonna keep all of my vegetables and proteins and aromatics organized for the stir fry. Here I have 4 shiitake mushrooms. I'm going to remove the stems on all of them. And how you clean shiitake mushrooms is by using a pastry brush, and you just brush off any excess dirt or debris. You never want to wash mushrooms under the water because they're just gonna absorb all the water. Your stir fry is gonna get really soggy and not delicious. And I've just sliced these up and placed them onto my plate. Thinly slice up on the bias half of a medium carrot. Stack up a few of your carrot rounds and slice them thinly for a julienne. Place your julienne carrots next to the mushrooms. Take 1 small head of green cabbage or savoy cabbage, cut it up into quarters, then make sure to cut out the core and slice it up into about a 1/4 inch thick. I'm gonna set my cabbage aside right next to the carrot. Towel dry 220 grams of extra firm tofu. Then you're just gonna cut this up into a bite-sized strip. Set aside your tofu strips over onto the plate. Take about 2 to 3 heads of baby bok choy, cut off the bottom. The inner leaves are small, so you can just use them as whole. The outer leaves are kind of big, so you want to stack them up and cut them on a diagonal. Smaller pieces for the stem parts and larger pieces for the leafy green tops. This way that everything cooks at the same speed. There's usually a lot of dirt inside bok choy, so you want to rinse them thoroughly. After you're done rinsing, drain off all of the excess water. Into the same bowl of my bok choy, I'm gonna add a handful of mung bean sprouts. These vegetables cook within minutes, so that's why I'm keeping them separate from the rest. I'm gonna add this at the very end. Veg prep is done. Now we're gonna move on to prepping the rest of our ingredients. Gochugaru, which is a Korean red pepper powder, is a must for jampong. I like to use a combination of a fine ground, 2 tablespoons of the fine ground, and 1 tablespoon of the coarse ground gochugaru. The reason why I do a combination of both is because the fine ground is a little bit milder, so that it's gonna give you the color that you need. The coarse ground is a little bit spicier, so it's gonna give you more of the kick that you're gonna need in jampong. And I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. This is optional, but it does give you a slight bit of that hint of smoky wok flavor. I'm gonna set aside 4 tablespoons of tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce, or you can use regular soy sauce. You're also gonna need some sort of neutral oil. I'm using grapeseed oil. Mushroom seasoning, adding a little bit of this to any type of Asian soup recipes makes it so good, gives it a nice depth of flavor. It's like an instant mushroom broth powder. Rice vinegar. Rice vinegar is not to make it sour or anything, but slight bit of acidity helps to balance out the flavor. Some salt in case you need to season it to taste, and some black pepper. Here I have all of my ingredients ready for the stir frying part of the soup, and everything's in the order of what needs to go into the pan. And it's really important to do this because once the fire gets going, things are gonna move fast and you do not want to burn anything. I also have my kombu dashi here that I soaked earlier, and the bowl with the bok choy and mung bean sprouts. Now we're ready to fire up the wok on high heat. You can also use use a non-stick wok-style pan. Heat up a couple of tablespoons of your neutral oil, then go ahead and add your tofu strips in, laying them away from you so that they don't splatter onto you. You might want to be a little bit gentle with your tofu at first because depending on how firm your tofu was, it might be a little bit delicate in the beginning. And once they start to get golden, you can go ahead and flip them over. And we just want our tofu to be nice and golden around all sides. Once the tofu is about 80 to 90% of the desired goldenness, it's time to add the mushrooms. Stir fry the mushrooms with the tofu until they are slightly charred and golden. Then move the tofu and mushrooms over to one side of the pan and add a little bit more oil to the other side. Then add the ginger and fry the ginger for about 30 seconds. This is how we're gonna infuse the oil with the ginger aroma. And then just stir fry everything together, being very careful not to burn anything. Go ahead and add your cabbage and carrots. Stir fry everybody together for about a minute or two. Once all your vegetables look delicious to eat on its own, sprinkle over your gochugaru and smoked paprika mix. Stir fry this for about 15 seconds or so. Then pour the soy sauce or tamari around the pan and stir fry for another 10 to 15 seconds. This chars the soy sauce a little bit in the wok, creating lots of flavor, but you also don't want to burn it. Pour the kombu dashi along with the kombu into the wok. If you soaked the kelp overnight, then go ahead and remove the kelp and just pour in the liquid. But if you're like me and didn't soak your kelp overnight, then lower the heat to about a medium heat. We want to bring this up to a gentle simmer rather slowly so that the kombu has a chance to infuse our broth with its umami flavor without bringing it up to a boil, because boiling the kombu can destroy its umami flavor notes. Sprinkle over half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1.5 tablespoons of mushroom seasoning, and 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. Stir the soup until all of the ingredients are well incorporated, and we want to bring the soup up to a gentle simmer. Right when you start to see tiny bubbles start to form on the top, immediately remove the kelp out of the soup. Simmer this for about another 15 minutes or so that our broth has a chance to deepen its flavors. In the meanwhile, let's prepare the noodles. If you go to the Korean grocery store, in the refrigerated section, they have fresh noodles available. And this is one of my favorites. It's fresh knife-cut noodle, 생칼국수. It works really good for 짬뽕. And then this is a new one that I found. It's called 수제 칼국수. It's kind of similar to the one I showed you before, but a much fatter, wider noodle, and this is so good for 짬뽕. So if this is in your store, then get that one. But I'm gonna use the 생칼국수 because it's more readily available and more of a traditional look for the 짬뽕 dish. You can also use fresh udon noodles or dried udon noodles, but I highly recommend getting these kalguksu knife-cut noodles because they taste better, they have a better, chewier texture, works perfect for 짬뽕 and jajangmyeon. Bring a pot of salted water to boil. The reason why I'm salting the water here is because it's not like jajangmyeon where your noodles are gonna get coated in a salty sauce. It's going to be in a soupy dish, so you want to season your noodles from the inside out. Otherwise, your noodles end up tasting a little bit bland later. Cook up the noodles following the package instructions, or just cook them until they're cooked through and they should be chewy and al dente. Fresh noodles cook within minutes, so don't leave your pot and watch your noodles because the water can also boil over. If that's happening, just lift it away from the heat or add a little bit of cool water. My noodles look like they're just about done, so I'm going to take them out and put them into a cool bowl of water. You can also just strain them off over a colander in the sink. Here I'm just stopping the noodles from cooking any further and also rinsing off any excess starch. Because excess starch can make your noodles a little bit gloppy and stick to each other, I'm gonna drain off all the water and get ready to plate up my jampong. Here's the finishing touches for the soup. Add the mung bean sprouts and baby bok choy. Add a pinch of salt and season it to taste. Stir the soup and cook the bok choy and sprouts for about 30 seconds to a minute. Plate up a portion of noodles into a bowl and ladle your soup over your noodles. Get some of the veggies and tofu, and then get some of that nice broth all over. This is gonna be so good. One little extra thing that I like to do when I plate my jampong is to warm up the noodles really quick by running them under some hot water or even dunking them in the soup broth for a quick second so that they come up to temperature so that you can have a nice blazing hot bowl of noodle soup, because you know us Asians, we love our soup dishes to be super hot. Here is our beautiful bowl of vegan jampong noodles ready to be devoured and slurped. Now time for the taste test. This jampong looks so good, and of course you gotta eat jampong with a side of DANMUJI, which is pickled daikon radish, and that's what they typically serve at the Chinese Korean restaurant, and they go really well together. If you want a really good recipe for this, I'll link it at the end of this video and also in the description box below. Let's try the jampong. Yum! 너무 맛있겠다. Look at those noodles. 너무 맛있어. I love the freshness of this jampong with all the vegetables. Try a little piece of the tofu. The tofu tastes really good when you pan fry it like that. If you don't pan fry it and you just add some plain tofu, it won't taste the same. And these noodles are perfection. I love these kalguksu noodles. I think they're better than the jampong or jajangmyeon noodles that you can find at the grocery store. Let's try a little bit of the broth. 속이 다 풀리는 것 같아. Wow. Oh my god. That broth is so good. It has such a nice clean flavor. It has a little bit of spiciness, but it's not too spicy. I think any meat lover would love this broth too. It's not lacking in flavor at all. I forgot. 단무지. 단무지 하나? 너무 잘 어울려. I feel like I've been transported to a vegan Korean Chinese restaurant, even though they don't exist. But the great news is you can just make really great restaurant quality food at home like this. 잘 먹었습니다. If you guys like this jampong recipe, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. 안녕!